If her mother is telling her, oh, P is power, she will be in a position where she is vulnerable. And you can't and want to push back on a person like myself who's saying, no, that's wrong or out of line. You need to mind your business. Cool. You know what? What a lot of people, especially men, have relegated themselves to doing is saying, cool, y'all got it. If you want to get hit by the bus, get hit by the bus. But don't expect me to clean it up and don't expect me to lick your wounds. Because I'm telling you that that's problematic. And why does that matter? If you go back to the first video that I did and I talk about the incentives, the question that was asked from Ms. Fool at the candidates forum, how do we get to a space where we are empowering people who are doing the correct thing? As Quan said, unfortunately, crime pays. Degenerate behavior pays. Because for everybody, like I said, who want to hate a Diddy, a Trump, Tyler Perry, etc., all people have been warned. From a number of people have been evidenced. And because a lot of people want likes and access to the money or the possibility of fame, power, and status to get invited to a Met Gala, we have resigned ourselves to self-censorship, but want to cry about a democracy that we think is deteriorating. But you won't even speak out, or you won't even support a person who's speaking out because you don't want to be seen as confrontational. You don't want to be seen as radical. So we've relegated ourselves to just, oh, let me get the bag. And again, Meritocracy Trap, good book. Because a lot of people believe in meritocracy. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to do good and better. But how you do and how you get your money matters. Because there is wreckage that you leave behind depending on how you do it. Now, it says here, hold on, I'm gonna go to this page first. This is page 59. The empowered elite, when it created superordinate workers, meritocracy gave the elite a tool specifically built to render itself effectively ungovernable. When it created superordinate workers, meritocracy gave the elite a tool specifically built to render itself effectively ungovernable. What do they mean by that? So you have superordinate workers, workers who are going to go above and beyond, work 80 hours, 80, 90, however many they ask, through the idea that if I work these 120 hours, I'm going to make it. Or if I sell my body, I'm going to make it. I'm going to come up. I'm going to do all of these flips and hurdles, and I'm going to somehow make it. But right after, meritocracy gave the elite a tool specifically built to render itself, the elite, that's what we're talking about, effectively ungovernable. People ask, how are we in this situation? How are we in this predicament? Because going back to the original point, the Cassie, the Elon Musk, the Donald Trumps, all of these people who have and had social capital and clout, we have aligned ourselves with them. to try to make it. We won't speak out against their degenerate behavior because we too have the possibility of making it. I'm not going to call out Donna Brazile because I might want to get into this committee spot. I'm not going to call out Mitch McConnell because I might want to get out into this committee spot. Or I don't want to talk bad about this company because I want this brand deal. So I'm going to effectively self-censor. And the self-censorship is wrapped in meritocracy. Because I think by censoring myself that I'm going to get ahead. But guess what? It itself effectively makes itself ungovernable, unmanageable, uncontendable. Because not only are you dealing with a class of people who are willing to exploit every part of the supply chain, I'm going to exploit the human capital as well. Finally, meritocracy once again places the state and private elites into direct competition for the same basic asset. Now the human capital of superordinate workers, and for the same basic virtues, which is now skill, effort, and industry. Now listen to that again. Finally, meritocracy once again places the state and private elites. This is not a conversation about all white people, all black people. This is a conversation about, as Ice Cube put it, committees of people who push narrative to create dissension or black fatigue. Because Bad Girls Club, all of these shows, World Star Hip Hop, all of this stuff is reproduced and backed by elites. And are a lot of those elites white? Yeah, but they're not all white. Don't think that your black brethren won't sell you out. But again, this shit is in books, man. Meritocracy. Meritocracy trap. All right. Rising income, I'm on page 85. Rising income inequality coincides with rising inequality in labor and mirror image trend and leisure. What does that mean? Rising income inequality coincides with rising inequality in labor and mirror image trend in leisure. This is where I beef with the gig economy. Because as wages dropping through inflation, through stagnation, through, I forget the word. But basically, there are a certain number of measures where wages are undermined, and that's through immigration and also prison labor, etc. So it's being devalued in every way, extrinsically and intrinsically. But you got the rise in inequality in labor. So you got motherfuckers working 1 million hours. And they're not even getting the appropriate benefits for working those hours because y'all wanted to be close to y'all faith, Obama, Black Jesus, when he gutted labor laws through the invention of the gig economy. And now we are selling entrepreneurship through the gig economy. Because in modern entrepreneurship, it's completely different than what you're talking about. And again, get the book. When you're talking about magnates and robber barons, who are the Carnegies, the Zuckerbergs, and all of these different people. And again, this is not me saying don't try to better yourself or none of that. I'm just trying to, part of this thing is awareness. If you understand what people are doing to you, you have a way to fight it and push back. Now, the increase in long work hours has been concentrated among highly paid and highly educated workers, and the increase in leisure among low paid and less educated workers. That's why we're starting to have conversations about universal basic income. Now, the match between high weekly earnings and long weekly hours was closer in 2000 to 2002 than in 1983 to 85. The rich, that is, disproportionately work the long hours, and the rest disproportionately work the short ones. Inserting a scene. Matters look very different today. Economic inequality now threatens to divide America against itself. Very clear cut. We see it happening. Economic inequality now threatens to divide America against itself. Inequality threatens, in other words, to break the mechanics or mechanisms through which American capitalism once sustained social solidarity and instead transformed America into a caste society. No longer are the days where you're working to transcend class. We are no longer in that era. And that's what I want people to understand. So when we look at a Cassie and a Diddy situation, or we look at a Tyler Perry situation, or we look at all of these people who exploit Black poverty through sex, drugs, money, access, we're looking at the current business model of what it means to be an entrepreneur. Young Thug just got caught up on the same thing. Because a lot of people have always used record labels, even if we look at Death Row, as racketeering devices. But again, we won't support people who call out institutions or individual people because we want to slightly have access to those people. Because we might get there one day. And that is going to fuck us over. It is. I know people don't like hearing it because you have to find balance in yourself in other ways. And let me say this. Let me go into this. This is a little bit off topic, but it's real personal to me. You ever, for all my people who got a good life on paper, you got the numbers, you got the salary, you got the apartment, you got the car, you got the everything you were supposed to have, right? But something off with your spirit, something off with like, I just still feel empty. A part of me, there's a super huge void. And it's because of this. We chasing something that don't exist. And we have now been trained to be willing to use our bodies or self-censor and allow ourselves to be exploited. Again, and is there certain levels of exploitation that happens within capitalism? Yes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about we've gotten to the point where you can't speak out against somebody in government without a case being brought up on you, you being thrown in jail, and now they talking about people even being deported. Whoever thought we'd have been here? It was a slow walk. And what I'm suggesting is we can't do that. We have to empower the people who are willing to say, you know what, nah, this shit wild. You wild. Because the more people who retreat back into, I ain't gonna say nothing, we eventually create more space for the degenerate people to come in and fleece us. Because that is what's happening. They have gotten stronger through self-censorship. You can't even say certain words on social media, like how you gonna have a conversation about a life cycle, but you can't say dead or death and stuff like that. You gotta use words like unalived. Understand that is problematic. Understanding when your speech is being heavily curated, the narrative is being shaped so that one party can continue to maintain leverage. And to say, oh, well, I'm gonna stay silent out of strategy is not a strategy. It's not. Not at this day and time. If y'all still here with me, like the video, share the video. I appreciate you for coming in, joining us again. Meritocracy Trap. If you want to check it out yourself, please do. It's a good read. Next, I'm gonna go here. You will own nothing. Cause we are in a space where people who we thought had the money don't got the money. A few videos ago, I talked about Taraji P. Henson being on TV crying about not being able to make it and not being able to thrive. When these are the very type people who we thought was success. People would have gave up their lives. People would have gave up everything to get to this space. You want to get a trip to the Met Gala. You want to be around the Diddies. They would want to cut the grass doing my goddamn thing. Try to do it early. But no worries. So, again, this is You Will Own Nothing. And the biggest concept of this book is talking about how everything has become a subscription, how we don't necessarily have the ability to own products anymore, and how we've been put in this space or being put in this space because it hasn't been locked in yet, where you can buy a car and you got to buy like the extra acceleration or subscribe to the extra acceleration, or you got to Apple Music. Basically, there are opportunities to actually own. Like even me doing this, I'm on YouTube. I own it, but I don't. And so, let me see. Okay. Socially unacceptable, the business edition. It says, so ESG, and those are the new standards that they use for environmental social grades, make general sense. However, once they have been co-opted by a profiteer class and enabled by useful idiots, the free market concepts become bastardized and guided to central planning outcomes. What does that mean? So I've been talking about monetization, the problem with monetization, and how we've monetized every aspect of our life, including our sexuality, including access, the whole spectrum is monetized. Even therapy has been monetized. So trauma, all of this type of stuff, you monetize it. The problem with that is if you don't interrogate the monetization process itself, you enable what it says is useful idiots, and the free market concepts become bastardized and guided to central planning outcomes. What the fuck does that mean, Devon? And why does that have anything to do with Cassie, Diddy, and any of this? All right. So first off, let me say this. We do not live in a free market the way free markets or laissez-faire typically operates. Government creates winners and losers. Policy dictates who gets what and how those resources are distributed. It is not the spoils always go to the best, the brightest, and the most, cunning. Absolutely not. The central planning outcomes piece is where you take what it's meaning by these useful idiots, people who I say, or when I say, you don't understand the carnage in which your behavior leaves behind. So when you, let's say, again, we talked about crack cocaine in the 80s. Everybody like, I gotta get my bag. I gotta get my bag. Fuck it, the bag, the money. If it ain't about money, it don't make sense. What the fuck? You don't understand in the process of making that money, because politics is about collectivism, you have destroyed a whole community behind you in the pursuit of your dollar. And so when you take that and scale it up to my last video, I talked about the problem with the communications industry with news and media. Because news and media has also been co-opted by free markets, right? The problem with this is that some of them are useful idiots, because they'll say, well, this is the way we do it. This is how we do it. Institutional protocol, right? Not understanding that for every time you double down on making a 60-second video or a 2-minute video because that's what sells and because that's what people are and because that's how people consume content, you entrench that even further. So let's take it a step further. If negativity sells, I'm a useful idiot. Because now, this is how it is. I'm going to get trained by the person above me, right? I don't even understand why I'm doing it, but this is just the way that the company operates. This is how we get the results. So we have a centralized process, and you'll hear, this is how it'll come out in like an interview or something. You're not a cultural fit. What that means is you're not with the bullshit. We need somebody who will go along to get along. Because guess what? I need you to just sell the negativity blindly. Because that's what the bottom line gets us to. But you're not paying attention to the fact that every time you sell a negative story, you are perpetuating an ideology. And I'm not going to go on to like the whole spiritual level and all of that, but you are perpetuating a whole level of evil spiritedness for $1. So yeah, you got your bag, I'm gonna get to my bag. But now we're dealing with a country, a nation whose literacy rates are plummeting fast, who get brain rot from just scrolling, who can't consume anything past a certain point because we have a business model that has been centralized, and we're going to say, oh, you know what? Nah, this is just what we do. That's what that, again. However, once they have been co-opted by your profiteer class and enabled by useful idiots, the free market concepts become bastardized and guided to central planning outcomes. And to read even further, as we have learned throughout history and paid the price for in recent years, this is never anyone's benefit other than the central planners and their cronies. Again, y'all don't gotta listen to me. It's cool to say, oh yeah, Diddy fucked up, this fucked up, that's fucked up. But guess what? It's a lot of people, if they could go in that room and get access to that bag, they ain't gonna say shit. They gonna become one of the cronies. Even when we talk about the left flank of the Democratic Party, a lot of them assholes. You wanna know why? Because they suffer from this very concept. They're useful idiots. Because let me be 100 with y'all. Next time I'm gonna bring up my DNC card just because I don't think y'all understand. I do this shit. You gotta run some of what you're gonna do through the appropriate power channels. So let's say I want to do this video and I want to critique this and I want to critique that and I want to have a conversation about this or that. If I'm a person like AOC, I got to call up a collaborator, I got to call up a Biden or this or that to get permission to do it. You're not no fucking revolutionary. Cut it out. That's how Kamala got hemmed up. Because you got a person, and this is, again, when I stepped away from Joe Biden, everybody criticized. DC wouldn't be going through what it's going through right now in terms of having statehood if Joe Biden would have stood on his word. But y'all chose Joe Biden. Y'all didn't choose the people who said, yo, this dude is a liar. His track record is lying. But nah. And what did he do to Kamala? And again, I'm not here to say whether Kamala is competent or not or how you feel about Kamala. That's not what this conversation is about. What happened was, and this came out, I may be wrong, they may be lying. Joe Biden said, don't undercut me. But meanwhile, you undercutting her. So as she remaining loyal to him, fucking up her campaign because she got to run it through the ranks. Because that's what the social capital is. That's what the access is. That's what the self-censorship is. Through your own self-censorship, you fucked yourself. For a man who don't care about you. Don't care about us. I'll wait. And then you got the left, who's just control opposition. They do all of that talking now, but when the actual party who could do something about it was in office, they did nothing, said nothing. Yeah, it's cool to talk now because you know Donald Trump ain't gonna move on none of that shit. So it's just, again, I'm monetizing the oligarchy tour. An oligarchy tour? You know how many oligarchs in the Democratic Party? You know how many wealthy motherfuckers in the Democratic Party who just got bags and bags to throw around? Which is why people don't be really willing to speak their voice and how they really truly feel. To the point where Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush gotta wait until they get out of the Democratic Party to talk about the wild shit that happened to them in the Democratic Party. Because they censored themselves because they wanted access to try to monetize their life. Because they thought meritocracy was a thing. So they were selling their own integrity, selling their own dignity, selling all of those things to get along. And it's a little bit different. Because I ain't talking about the average people who got like regular jobs. When you elected official, you can kind of drop your nuts a little bit. Because you elected by the people. It's not the same for them. I can be ideologically free. And for who those don't like it, just don't like it. I ain't talking about all my workers who got a boss. I understand y'all. I get it. You gotta get your money. We everyday people. I'm talking about the elite and the people who serve the elite. And then the people who serve want to fake come out and cry about the elite. You doing an oligarchy tour, but you serve the oligarchs. You can't make this shit up. Stop it, people. What are we doing? We monetizing every facet of our life in the hopes that we'll somehow stave off and become the millionaires that we hate. A lot of people are turning conservative with not shit to conserve. If you wealthy, I get it. I understand. I don't agree, but I understand. But for all of those who don't got shit to conserve, what you holding off? You think you're gonna make it one day? No. Again, if I had to recommend one of these specifically, I would definitely say Meritocracy, try it first. This right here. And then because it's a lot of stuff that go into these conversations. I could probably talk for like 20 hours straight, for real, for real. Because the black fatigue thing, I'm just really tired of us having very superficial, simplistic conversations, and then the black elite, the bourgeoisie, coming in as if they don't profit off the debauchery, off the black poverty. Like, to all the women, right? Y'all don't find this shit weird? And I'm talking to my black women. They prop up the ghetto girl shit. But if you ever went into a job or try to get ahead doing that, they're going to shun you. And it's the same thing with the degenerate culture on the male side. And that's why I brought the Ice Cube clip in, because all of this is propagated by institutions who have a bottom line. And I make a point to say institutions and not white people, because I do understand racial hierarchy, but I think we've gotten to a point where people don't understand nuance, because people will talk about white people all day, every day, which again, they do have some accountability to hold. But then you use them as the measuring stick as to what you should and should not be able to do when you call them degenerate. It don't make sense. And y'all also missed the point that a lot of white people, the reason why race is such a frustrating conversation, and I'm gonna wrap this up because I done gone on for a real long time, is because they don't even understand it. Because in this current moment, like we talked about in both of these books, it's not about intentionality at this point. You don't have to be intentional. It's called institutional protocol. These are the way that things are done. And they produce the outcomes that they have been set to produce to keep everything moving in a cyclical fashion. What the fuck do I mean by that before I leave? Let's take gentrification, for example, right? Gentrification is undergirded by racist infrastructure. But gentrification as it currently happens is not individual white people intentionally being racist. Why you capping for white people, Devon? I'm not. But think about it like this. We got the uber wealthy that we talk about in here, the ungovernables. Then you got your upper middle class white people. Then you got your middle class white people. And then you got your lower tier. Now, because America has been set up the way that it has been set up, in terms of how blackness itself attached to a community devalues property. Because the associated narratives that have been entrenched through, again, racist infrastructure. These white people now, though, because wealth is calcifying at an unprecedented level, are saying, shit, I can't live around my boss. Their bag too big and it's getting bigger. So I gotta move, because their bag is creating a bubble around where they living. Now I'm gonna move to this community, but because black and white wealth is so disparate, when white people move into that community to survive, they now raise everything up, intrinsically and extrinsically. Because we also got some black Negroes who like gentrification because they want that whiteness. They want the access, they want the juxtaposition. Those are conversations that we gotta have. But it's not intentional. A lot of them don't even know what's happening. It's an economic phenomenon. Again, when you look at white flight, when you look at black flight, when you look at all of these things that have taken place in the past, or color law, covenants, redlining, eminent domain, all of these different things created a system that now has a cyclical effect. So every time we get to a certain point and we get to a certain place, it's going to happen. That's why you can't outrun it. Because the more wealth calcifies, and I've talked about this in depth in other videos that I've done in the past. The more wealth calcifies, the more poverty expands. But because white poverty and black poverty is not the same thing, we get displaced. That's what's happening. But because our founding thugs, AKA fathers, the racist are the most racist, set up a system that their kids don't even understand. Because again, our literacy rates are completely in the toilet. So a lot of people can't comprehend how complex the social issues are. But we get up here and we talk about fucking black fatigue. No. How about you call up the media companies who keep perpetuating it or promoting it? How about when a person is a known degenerate, we don't keep supporting them because you want likes and access, or you want to invite them to an event and you don't want to get socially isolated from that opportunity? Let's actually say, you know what? Let's stand with people who actually have a level of integrity and dignity and build something where we can be ideologically aligned and not just black together. Because it's some black people who think some wild, degenerate shit. But we support them. Again, thank y'all. I might do a whole book. But until then, like the video, please share it. Because again, I'm just here to try to hack the algorithm so that we can actually have more substantive conversations. And call people out. Because one last thing, and I know I said it already, but fuck it. It's right here. All of this whole, we can't be confrontational and blah, blah, blah. We ain't gonna get nowhere if we're not willing to be confrontational. And yes, that means with our own people too. We have to do it. You can't think that you're gonna get politically advanced and be like, oh yeah, we just not going to have any type of confrontation. Politics is inherently confrontational. If you want your ideology represented, you got to go with it. You got to take the risk. That's what these motherfuckers did. But we got to get out of that mindset too. Oh, we got to stick together. Yeah, stick together to what extent though? To the point we got heathens up at the top running whole sex rinks? You got people calling y'all bad wenches, scamming y'all for schools that have been trying to be built for 30 years? And I'm not supposed to say nothing. Y'all supposed to just keep donating. We supposed to just keep saying, oh, we can't say nothing because he black. What? You got to get out of that. They a problem to the community. Now, if he doing something that's a detriment to himself, cool. Have at it. But these people fleecing the community. And all this pimp hoe culture, stop it. Stop monetizing every aspect of your life, man. Stop being overly transactional. Read. Because if you understood a lot of this stuff that people are talking about, y'all putting yourself in the harm's way. But because can't nobody tell you shit, you just gonna keep doing what you want to do and then want somebody to boo-hoo with you. That's why you don't hear me cry about none of my past nothing. Because I brought that shit on myself in most cases. Only thing you will hear me complain about is this wild ass post crack cocaine where we got sold by our parents. And then they wonder why we degenerate. Motherfucker, y'all left us. And y'all was degenerates. Fuck. But y'all be safe. I appreciate you. Go watch the whole full video, man. You know how my conversations are. I don't really like having these quick, superficial jumps. I'm trying to get it down shorter because everybody's like, oh, you got to make it shorter, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of this shit take time, man, to understand it. If I ain't spent 4 years just being able to sit in a room and consume a lot of shit and then get paid in my actual profession to consume a lot of shit, I'd probably be behind too. But what I'm telling you is, Slim, you gotta take the time. Because these people gonna tell you what you want to hear, and a motherfucker that's gonna tell you what you want to hear don't love you. Straight up. Correction is love, man. Sometimes I wish I had more correction in my life. But fuck it, that's what accountability is for. Self-correction. But y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Sunday. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. Hope church was good. For all my people who rolling out, enjoy. It's a nice day. If you in Washington, D.C., man, go to a community meeting. Go to a town hall. Start there. It's always simple starts. Engage. Because just sitting around, calling the mayor a bald-headed bitch ain't gonna do nothing. Or whoever your representative is. Or calling Trump Cheeto Man. You don't give a fuck. Do something. But I love y'all. I say there's all this shit within love. I really do. Love you guys. Be safe.